Good morning, everyone. Uh, Thank you to everybody for who's joining live, and hello to anyone joining after the fact to watch. Welcome to the video. Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for the continued support. Today, we're going to be wrapping up the retro that I started on Monday morning, and I think we left off where I was kind of alluding to that. I was going to talk about the data because that's kind of the biggest part of this trading app that I've had to kind of gather myself and curate, and really just a lot of processes that I personally don't know anything about. You know, as a dev in my daily job, I work a lot with React, which is excellent, and I get to do some other fun stuff, but we have a whole department called professional services, or that kind of just maintains our database, or not really maintains it. Like, we have a DBA and everything, we have an ops department, but like there are people gathering the data that I implement in the front end, and I've never had to explore that area here. So this is why I really love having a project like this where I am the only one accountable, because you know, somebody has to do it. So I need data to be able to work with, and I had to go out there and get it, and it's hard. It's not easy to get usable data, and you guys will see plenty of examples of that, because you know, mine in this app that I've been demoing is far from perfect. So I'm going to start by showing you guys how I kick off dev, just because I think in the last video I started, I already had the dev environment running. So we are going to start that up right here. So as you guys know from previous videos, I deploy or I run all of this with Docker. So we have these like 4 Docker Compose files where I can either, this main one, you know, runs the whole, runs all the containers for the app, and then these kind of run the individual containers, so I could choose to kind of deploy either the front end container or the database container or the back end container, and run the other portions of the app separately, so that you know, different forms of development can take place. And right now, the state that the app is kind of in is that the back end and the front end are very much you know, in development. So I'm only going to run the database from Docker, at least. And yeah, I mean, we've gone over this file and everything, but we're really just deploying one container. Got rid of Mongo Express, like I said on Monday. Yeah, still haven't really remembered why Mongo Express stopped working. I made some change. Yeah, still really haven't thought too much on that one, but not using Mongo Express anymore. I'm just going to deploy the database, so that'll be yarn run db, and you guys will see this start up. I wanted this just be for you guys to see how development starts up. I know this is going to be slow since I'm running virtual camera and everything, but I don't care. I'm just going to let it go, and you guys can kind of see how I've set this up to work for myself. It's not as hard as I expected it to be, honestly. Docker has so many resources out there that are really excellent for learning pretty much everything you need to get some containers going. So now you'll see my logs start to run as the container starts up. A new terminal. We saw this last week, but I'm just going to bash in again. Not last week, I meant Monday. We'll run this guy and then IT right here is the interactive terminal. So this is going to bring us into the container. This right here is the name of the container that it gave to itself. You can see that in the logs. Mongo. So now we've activated the Mongo shell or something like that. Don't really know the terminology here. Now we're going to do auth. So we use admin auth. Oh, it's me. Yeah. Oh, I think I got that wrong. This might not work. It did. So finite. And we'll do db.players just to make sure we've got some data in here. And there is some players. As you can see, we've got what? Russell Westbrook, height, weight, position. There's his image. Yep, that is how this goes. So everybody's got an ID, and bada bing, we are looking at our database. So I'm going to come back here and run the next layer. We will start up the back end. So not going to use Docker for this. I'm just going to run this file here, server.js, which is, the entirety of my backend pretty much. So for this, we're going to start backend. And once this gets going, we will be able to see what we checked over here, except it's going to tell us that it's listening soon. Yep. Except we will see it 3001 in the browser. And let's look at players again just to verify that everything in our container is matching. And you can see that in the logs, it says that SPOP authenticated, and I just obviously initiated a GET request. So the container is going to log that. And the backend is just console logging what I've asked it to do. So that was a GET request. So we have a GET, and team and term are also potential parameters for that GET request that I, in this case, did not use because I just went straight to the endpoint. And here's our response. It's going to be all 500 players, and we can see that this data is what we were expecting. It doesn't. doesn't like have that JSON formatter that Firefox did, which is too bad because that was really nice. I guess, yeah, it starts right here. So you have ID, uh, Robert Covington, 6'9", blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that's one whole player right there. And one thing that we're going to talk about with the data side is the price object that is now part of every player. And it now is an object literal where each key is just a number. So everybody just has 1 and 2 now. And that's something I'm going to talk about where I was able, I guess this is going to kind of simulate how price can be dynamic in a trading app. So we'll get more into that as well, but let's add the final layer here, which is going to be a React app. Just let my terminal wake up here, and we'll say yarn start feed. So this will then start up our React app, and away we will go. That's the process that I use to pretty much be able to actively develop my server if I want to, and actively develop my front end if I want to, because obviously these are both going to react to changes that I make within the code here. So yeah, the database, don't really have to worry about that. So I always just open up the database with Docker. It's the easiest, and it saves all my stuff, which is amazing. So if I did want this to be, the closest thing I have to my production build, I would just have to deploy my backend again to AWS, and then update my my finite YAML to, I guess my backend container would get a new version number, so I would like go to 1.5 after I deploy that, and then running this would open the updated backend, and for the front end, all I would have to do is use the React scripts build to build kind of a optimized production build, which would then go front end into my build folder here. Oh yeah, I don't have one right now because I haven't built it on this IDE yet, because I just pulled this repo down from GitHub recently. You might have noticed that I stopped using my VM. Now I do all of this dev right on my Windows machine, which is something that I really wish I realized earlier, because the only thing that I really need the VM for is deploying the backend, which Windows or Docker for Windows just has issues with with talking to AWS, I guess. So I do that from Linux, and I do as little as possible from Linux now that I've realized I can. So we'll go back to our window here and just make sure we're up and running. We'll go to 3000. Yeah, we'll just go there. So I'm going to try not to ramble too much. We'll discuss the data, and I'll get into some next steps. The retrospective portion. Oh, it still isn't going. That's why that didn't come up with anything. yeah, we'll talk about next steps, and then we'll end with a little coding session, which will be fun. We're going to spend most of our time is in my scrape folder today, which should probably be named data, but named that 6 months ago now, so kind of sticking there, but scripts than the last time that I kind of talked about the web scraping aspect of this project, and I'm going to hopefully be able to synthesize how all of these work together to get me the results that I wanted for this trading app. Hopefully the process doesn't change too often here, because I don't want to have to demo this every time, really, since, as you can see, we are 17 minutes in and haven't gotten the app going. But in all honesty, the process may very well be changing, because I want to not only be deploying with Docker, but have Kubernetes supporting that as well. So we will see if I'm able to get that implemented before the next retrospective. So we could see our logs just flinched a little bit, so the database is hearing something. And we are just going slow here. Not a problem though, folks. This is for knowledge. And maybe I will be able to figure out how to, I don't know, enhance performance when I'm running this damn virtual camera. That has got to be what's slowing me down. I mean, everybody's experienced this when you're sharing your screen with people at work. Obviously, everything just performs so much worse. Hopefully the smart people figure that out, because I don't want to have to. Wow. Here we go. And we get our lovely welcome component, which I designed myself. Boom. And we're signed in as a Becker like we did at the end of the previous video. We will now just go to the app. And we'll once again see our player endpoint getting hit, just like we looked at over here on the server side. So we'll see the data coming through to the client. And our payload is obviously going to have no term, which is why we will see every player. And our response, I'll do the preview instead, will be this beautiful group of JSON objects, where you can see Josh Jackson and his price, which hasn't changed. So let's actually look at one of our top guys. We will check out James Harden, and we can see that his price at position 1 was 99 and is now 107 at position 2. So James here has a green outline, and that is because his price has gone up by $8.20. This is the main part that I'm going to try to highlight of kind of the data gathering, curating, whole process that I've had to, I guess, just muck together to get some dynamic data. And, it is a major work in progress. So hopefully I will be able to improve drastically in the next few sprints. So we also see Karl Anthony Towns here, who has this nice red outline, and that is conditional because his price has gone down, obviously. So yeah, I just wanted to have that red indicator for anyone who has gone down, and we will find him right here and see that his price went from 96 to 70. So yeah, minus 26. And yeah, this is based on an algorithm that I wrote, except for Karl Anthony Towns, because I haven't included any processes that make it possible for players' prices to go down yet. So I just wanted to be able to demo this feature. So I went right into the Mongo and just changed his second price to 70. So yeah, Karl Anthony Towns, I don't even know who he is, but his price went down artificially so that I could show the nice red outline there. Now we're going to talk about Python. And I have not rehearsed this, and there are a lot of scripts. So where should we start? Player JSON is one that is like the main file that this data is coming from. Obviously, like this is when I drop the player database. Pretty much the process for when I change the data, as in update a new price. If I were to add the third position here and update prices again, I would need some way to get this into the database. So what I do is I just go into here, my interactive terminal, and I will just do a db.players.drop, and that will get rid of all the players in the database. And then I'll go back to my front end, and I just have a little button that does a post request or a put request or something when the database is found empty, and that will add the newest version of player info.json. So not quite as fancy as like an IIS update or SSIS scripting, jargon. However, ops does stuff in the real world. This is just me hacking together a way to get data into my database when I make changes to it. So everything, all of the new scripts kind of support this file. And the thought process that I had to go through to initially price the players was essentially this. I thought that I want to have a price attached to each player's name, and I want it to be accurate, but I don't know how much people will pay to invest in an NBA player. So I'm just going to choose a range and start. So what I did was I found a website that ranked every player in the NBA and scraped that data. And the main challenge that I ran into with that, so we have initial rankings here, was that obviously, I have a set of players in my player info JSON file that I believe to be pretty accurate to the league, but these things change all the time. Players get traded, players leave the league, new players come in. So this website that I found that I felt accurately ranked all of the players was what I decided would be my base. And it's really just an article that was written in 2020 at some point. And what I did was scrape the names in order, and then, so here's my first soup where I'm just looking for, what am I doing here? Initial rankings. Oh yeah, okay. So I was looking for a heading with this string because that was where all of the players started to be listed in the article. So I'm pretty much just targeting this spot in the DOM of the HTML, and then I begin to loop through all of the P tags, which I found to be useful for finding all of the rankings. And what I have here is just like holes that were in the data. I just filled in these guys. And then I appended name and rank to each player. So this all went into player info JSON, and I wound up with this file, and every player has a rank. So that was effective, but not entirely accurate. Obviously, I have this other one, which is initial ranking rookies. This article that I was scraping info from had none of the rookie players in it, which is like I think like 30 players or so. So I went in and got those and ranked them as well, which is another sort of inaccuracy of the data. But I really wanted to kind of just get this job like 80% done and get the data into the database so that I could start building the features. Now I could worry about curating the data at any point, really. That's something that I want to constantly improve. So it's major work in progress. But after the initial rankings were gathered, I had to assign price. And it's really just based on rankings. So I decided, all right, best player is going to be $100. That ended up being Giannis, and the worst player is going to be somewhere near zero. I think I made it so that no one would be less than $5 or something like that. But this script is what took care of that. Rank and price players. So starts off by actually, this is where I dumped all of the ranks. So this went into here, and then this is all the rookies and their ranks. So what did I do in rank and price players? I brought in initial rankings and initial rankings rookies, And I sort of just looped through both of those. And what I'm doing here is using regular expressions to, hopefully match as many names as I possibly could to names that are in my actual data, player info JSON, which is assigned to players. So you can see if I have ranks, rookie ranks, I'm looping through ranks, and then additionally looping through players and comparing names based on these regular expressions, which are pretty much just like getting rid of special characters, like Jokic has a bunch of accent marks in his name, and I'm scraping this data from all different websites. So all this stuff is like spelled inaccurately and just differently. So I get all of these strings in different forms, and I have to be able to match as many as I possibly can. This process is far from perfect, but through a series of these loops where I'm comparing areas of the string. Sometimes I'm just comparing first names, sometimes I'm just comparing last names, so that I can get as many matches as I can. Because if I'm doing this regular expression and the full names, I'm still not getting a match on full names. I was kind of figuring that out by creating these other lists to check who was matched at which point or not. I essentially just had to find some way to match each player. So all of these loops got me, I guess, to a satisfactory point there. And this was kind of my final hack, where I just said, all right, if you're still unmatched, just go through and give them a random price. And then, yeah, Josh Green and these guys probably aren't even in the league. They're just like incorrect data, which is why I just gave them prices. And this is where I went through and then gave each price. So yeah, $3 was the lowest that I went. And I'm assigning player price to this equation, which I kind of just figured this out using slope intercept. Took a long time. I would like to explain that like in further detail in a different video, but probably not now. I could show how I was able to find out how I could take all players less than 400 and find, this intercept and slope to get their price between 3 and 10. It was kind of a flashback to algebra. So now I've got one price on every player. What is the next step? I want to be able to have a dynamic change in player pricing. And this is where kind of the idea of a trading app gets bent a little bit, because we know what stocks are. They go up when people trade them. If people are buying a stock, the stock price goes up. If people are selling a stock, then that is going to affect the price negatively. And I want that to be part of this experience as well, but I want the player's stock going up to also be this idea of popularity, this idea of chance, where users can go and invest in a player with a really low price, and if tomorrow that player does like a a funny dance or gets a technical foul and is all over the news, their price will actually skyrocket because of that. Or if they're a rookie that no one expects to be good, and then they have a triple double, the pricing skyrocket because of that. I want those opportunities to be in these investments. So that's what I decided to focus on first. And I realized that including that popularity aspect in the data is a very complicated job to take on. So I decided I'm just going to start as small as possible. And the first thing that I looked for was what was it? Season leaders. Yeah. So I found this website where they essentially have 50 categories that they show stats for. And I'm guessing these get updated, weekly or something like that. But I pretty much just scraped all of the data that they had for these 50 categories. We can even look at this, I guess. And they just show the top 20 players for each of these 50 stats. So I decided, all right, I'll get these 50 stats and I'll have the 20 leaders for each of these 50 stats. And based on that, if you are in here, I'll add a little bit to your price. So that's essentially what this script that I'm showing does. And this is like in a very primitive state. I've only done this once, but I want the process to be such that I can run this Python script again and scrape all this data again. Hopefully it's updated and there's new leaders, and the price can go up dynamically based on that. So if someone has pulled way ahead in true shooting percentage, then hopefully that will affect their price. I haven't figured out the best way to do this at all. I think what I started with is if you're in the first position, your price goes up by $1, maybe. And and then down from there, your price goes up by like $1 minus 5 cents, $1 minus 10 cents. So, 85, 80, 75 cents. Yeah, I think that would make sense because 100 divided by 20 is 5. So this person's price is going to go up by 5 cents. And yeah, the process for this was just gathering all of the season leaders. So that is how this went, and the output went something like this. So I have my stat, minutes played, which obviously minutes played should not be weighted as heavily as, points or field goals. So that's like kind of a next step to curating this data properly. Maybe your price should only go up by 1 cent if you're the 20th highest minutes played, and 20 cents if you're the first. Because what does that really say about your skills or your popularity? Not as much as field goals. But essentially, this is my baseline for adding to players' prices. And this is why no one's price can go down, because I only have leaders here I haven't really tried to even come up with ways to negatively affect prices yet. So that is coming. So then rank and price players is our final script that we'll go through today. Wait, no, we did this. Daily price update is our final script that we'll go through today. I don't know what fixed prices is. What did I do here? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is when I had the prices kind of in list format, and I decided to change it to an object literal and made it easier for the front end. But yeah, no need to go too deep there. So here we're taking in our season leaders and we're taking in our player info. Same process here. We're going to loop through both of these in tandem effectively, like this. We're saying for items in X, which I kind of got lazy on naming, but X it looks like is yeah. So from this, what do we have here? We've got leaderboards is equal to season leaders JSON. So I said for board and leaderboards, I'm going to add a count. Yeah, so I have this increment here. Right, okay. So yeah, I was looping through all of the leaderboards and in each leaderboard, I'm looping through all of the names. So we'll go back to the format here. We've got one leaderboard, and then we've got the leaders list. So we're looping through this list of objects, and then we're inside each object looping through its list of players. And we're saying if dictionary.keys, which will give us the in dictionary.keys. Where is this coming from? Okay, so dictionary starts off as an empty dictionary. I'm saying if this player's name is already in here, then append to their dictionary entry the count. Starts as 1. And we're in the first position, the highest ranked player for that stat. And then it says else if the name is not a key in this dictionary yet, then add it and give them the count that we're on, the position that they're in. So what is dictionary going to end up being? It's going to end up being a unique list of players' names where if the players were anywhere in any of these leaderboards, then their name will only be a key in the dictionary once, and they'll have an object attached to their key, which is their name, that is the position in the list of rankings that they were in each of those, in each and every ranking that They were. So what a shitty explanation. Let's see if we can just look at dictionary. Wait. After that, I do this, where I say for key and value in dictionary items. Yeah, that's when I multiply. Okay, yeah, we will get into this. Well, let's just run this thing and we'll check out what dictionary looks like. I want that to run. So see what happens when we run this. It's going to fail because we're not in the right directory. Yeah, I highly recommend getting this Python extension for your Visual Studio Code. It's excellent. You don't have to run idle ever. Come on. So it's going to say that, and then we're going to have to say cd and great. Oh, source. Great. Yes. Run this guy. Come on. Oh, yeah, it's because I haven't pulled down. I haven't installed this. Do I need this? Yeah, I don't need it until we're down here. So let's use that. We just won't demo that part of the script. Should I just comment all of this out? What is it telling me? Oh, we've got some raunchy errors here. Report equals to JSON load. So it's not even able to load this up, maybe? That's fine. We are not going to worry too much about this. What we do is we get a dictionary of each player that is ranked name and then a list of all of their rankings. So then we come in here and we loop through dictionary keys, which is going to be every player's name. And this is where we do that matching thing again, where we try to match the player's name that we see in this dictionary with a player's name from player info JSON. And in this case, beforehand, we were assigning last price to so I had the data in a different format where I just had one key that said last price and then one key that said price, and that was what the front end was looking for. And I decided it would be better to change it to that object format where you see the first price and then the second price, and it can continue to be added from there. So that is essentially how I've gotten to what we now see here, where we can see players' prices are dynamic and rise based on those leaderboards that I've seen. There are a lot of next steps to discuss here, but I'm going to keep it short because we're getting to a long video here. But things that I want, obviously, I want this data to be better. I want it to be more accurate. Some of these players are probably not even in the NBA. Like you see, I wasn't able to scrape a picture for this guy, maybe because he's not even, well, I guess he probably is, since his price went up, so he was in that article. But yeah, there's a few players that I don't have pictures for. Kevin Knox, who knows if this guy is even in the NBA. I really have to curate the data better to make sure that it is as accurate as it can be. So that is big. I also want the prices to be affected by several other factors. I want prices to be able to go down if you're kind of in the news for a bad reason, or that's something that I haven't really thought through. I do want the news to be involved in this. I want when Stephen A. Smith is on SportsCenter saying this guy's stock just went up, I want that to actually happen. So there's ways that I could do that with web scraping, and it'll kind of be a similar process to what I've just showed, where I go in somewhere on the internet and look for some indicator that this person's price should be going up, and then I make that effect happen in my player info JSON file, add the updated data with new prices to the Mongo, and that will all show up here. The way that happens is that in my player component, real quick, we set all of the weeks to a list of keys that are each player's price. So picture just one player object coming through to this player component. We're saying, give me all of the keys for price. So in this case, it's only 1 and 2. It's only 2 prices that I have. I want these to be based on weeks. That's why I named these objects like this. And then we assign week, which should be called current week, to weeks with an index of length -1, and previous week to weeks with an index of length -2. So that will go to the most recent for the current price, and then the previous one for previous price. And that is what all this is based on. Then we have all these comparisons where we're making the border color success is green and then danger is red. This is all bootstrap, based on if the current price is greater than or less than the previous price. And same deal with our price here. We want to show the price change with that same, success or danger based on price, and that's where we add the plus or the minus. So that's a key next step, is just really constantly improving the data and how it's curated, how it's processed. I talked about Kubernetes. I do want to continue to improve the DevOps process. Really, no additions to DevOps in this sprint review right now. So that's something that I want to get back into. And a lot of these components I have to call the user endpoint. Not in this one, but essentially I do it in my app. I'm getting, no, maybe not actually. So we definitely do in the index, because that's where we instantiate the player or the user component. So I'm going to the user's endpoint. And then I believe the other place is, we do it in the account. I'm querying the user's endpoint here. And also in the login, in the sign up, we need to check the user's endpoint. And in our trade button, we also need to check the user's endpoint, because we have to find out if that user is able to make the trade that it's indicating. So if I am trying to trade West Window here, and okay, this is actually a poor account to use for this example. So I'm going to, because he has $90,000, but I'm going to log out and then log in as myself. Yeah, it's the same bug that we saw last time. So I gotta find out what's good with that, because this is not always doing what I want it to, I guess. Only really messes up when I'm here. But yeah, so for example, I have 3 shares of Kawhi Leonard here. The user button needs to check, the trade button needs to check, this is a component right here, it needs to check the user's information, because it has to say, all right, this user only has 550 cash. They shouldn't be able to sell more shares than they have, first of all. So I only have 3 shares. I can't possibly sell 5. I could sell 3, not 4. And I also shouldn't be able to buy more shares than I can afford. So the buy button has to disable after so long as well. So yeah, where I was getting at there was that I want to have the user's information accessible globally in the global state. So I want to design a context for that, where I can always call this endpoint just by invoking context in any of my components, because in this case, you will see this fetch user and use effect combo everywhere in this app, in the trade button, in the account page, in the index, in more places eventually. They're just going to keep adding up because I constantly need to check the user's information. So that's another thing that I want to have for the next sprint review. I do want to publish that the backend container to AWS more often. Haven't done that since the last retro that I recorded. So I should really be working towards continuous integration, and it's really just laziness that I don't publish that very often. Yeah, continuous integration, good. So need to stay diligent there and attempt that more often. Also, just this file is crazy now. It's upward of 400 lines, and I do everything for the back end right here in this file. I should really research Express.js more and find out what I could do to, I guess, organize this code a little better and just like make it more readable. Well, not really readable. Like I know how to go in here and make changes, but I don't know. It's not like a front end where everything's sectioned out nicely. It's like it's just a big mosh pit in here. So too much code. I'm sure there's ways to optimize that. Another thing that I want to be able to have is now that I'm gathering price data for each player, I think each player should have a profile. And you should be able to essentially click on their name right here and go to this player's page and see some information about them, which obviously you could see all the information that I have about them right here. But with this price, if you click on a stock on Ameritrade, you can go and see graphical representations of how that stock has performed over time. And that's something that I'd be interested in showing. Obviously, I only have 2 data points for them right now. Showing a line graph is not going to be very helpful for the user. But as I continue to gather this data, that is something that I would definitely be interested in. So let's at least add that page right now. I think that would be a good way to kind of end this video with a short demo. So we're going to start by adding the route for a player's profile page. And we're going to do it in the exact same fashion that I have each team their profile page. Another next step is that I think this route structure should be a little improved. Obviously, I'm about to create a new route called players, and these should probably both go off of app. Maybe app isn't even really the best name. Account is kind of always going to stand on its own. But I don't really know if this is the best structure for the flow of my website. But that's fine. For now, it's just something that I definitely want to add to the Trello board and continue to think about. So we are going to create a new component called player routes, and that will go in our routes directory. So close this up and add a new file called and we are just steal all of this code from the teams routes. What we're doing here is we're using the use params hook from React Router DOM. And what we're not going to need is this. I'll actually just change this player. Player like that, and then player. And what we're also going to need here is all of the player's information. So ID here is going to come from the URL. This hook grabs the ID from the URL, so we just need to make sure that in the URL there is something unique to identify each player. And we're also going to need to fill in all of the players' information in the same fashion that we do in our app component. So let's go into here, and we're going to grab this block and add it here. So we need to get all of this information, and obviously it has to come from the API. So we are going to steal. This is, another great example of, somewhere where I need a context, because we're just going to steal this code where I'm calling the player's API right here, but already able to just invoke a context right here. That would be much less complicated. I wouldn't be duplicating code in my repo. Everything would just stay so much cleaner. So let's import useEffect. And I'm not going to need to fetch teams. And we are not going to worry about term in this page. Let's require Axios. I think we can import it, actually. I usually require it. There's just something about the order that these get called when you import versus require, but I'm pretty sure that'll work fine. And then we don't have to worry about this local state because we're only going to return one player. So in our headers, we do not want to specify term anymore. We are going to specify player. And that is going to be our ID, which is from the URL. So then our JSON data will be our one player. Let's log this to make sure that we're getting a response here. I'm pretty sure this will work fine. Change this to player. So we don't have to change any of the code below. Oh, you know what? We are going to need some local state. So let's add that. Player, set player. Say equals use state. Somewhere, so hopefully that imports. Yep. And we'll initialize that to nothing. here we'll set player. Cool. So now we are going to have to add a check since we're, yeah. I wonder if we could add one check around this whole thing. Oh, nice. Not going to worry about this for now. But we can pull in the team data at any point. So that is going to be our route. And, oh, you gotta rename that. I'll be able to pull this in and save there. And then from our app, we are just going to want to change name. Oh, actually, this is going to happen in the player component. We're going to change here we go, name. How should we do this? This is already in a P tag, but I don't want it to. Yeah, let's do it like this. Change this to an anchor. Where the href is equal to players dash is to be backticks, and I'm going to add a variable player ID. Right? That's how we do this. I'm pretty sure we have the ID. Oh, no, it's actually this. Okay, so where did ID come from then? Because that. Jesus, this thing is hard to get around in. Yeah, so this is apparently variable 2. Oh. Interesting. I am not sure about that, but I'm going to change this to just not sure what I was using that for. So I know this one is coming right from props. So I'm going to use this ID. And hopefully this gives us a working route. So yeah, now all of our names are links, and it looks like this one is going to go right to players. Yeah, you can see in the bottom right or bottom left corner here, this guy is going to go to players with Giannis's ID. And then here we are not seeing our player component. So let's check our console and make sure that you see, this is not what we want. We are getting all of the players here. It's not what we want. So what happened to our back end when we did that? We got a GET request. Players. You know what? We cannot request a single player yet. So that is something that we have to add as well. And that's going to go into our server. See, guys, we are learning. So in our GET request for GET players, you know what? Something that I want to check is what our network request actually did here. Okay, so in the payload, we are saying that player is equal to Giannis's ID. The problem is that the backend doesn't know what to do with this information. You have to tell it. So some of the options that Get Players already has are team and term, and we are going to have to add player. So I'm kind of going the ternary route here, which is going to get muddy as we add our third option. But we're saying, did we get a team variable or a parameter? Then do this. Query Mongo in this way. If not, then query Mongo in this way. And if there's a term, do a term. This will just like render all of the players if there's no term, I guess. So what we're going to add here is another question, an additional layer to the ternary where we're going to say, is there a player? And if not, let me do this backwards here. If not, then do this. But if there is a player, and we're going to want to do player table dot find, except we want to match I don't think we have to do this so crazy. Like, yeah, we don't have to aggregate like this. That was just to like get all the players for one team. I think we can do this exactly like we see below, except we're going to say ID underscore ID is equal player. Now we have to make sure that we're passing the correct parameter to get players when we have a player in our headers. So we're going to change this to else if this nope this down here we'll have else, or if there's nothing, but here we'll have else if the request header object player Node's IntelliSense is kind of shaky sometimes. IntelliSense is just so much better when you use TypeScript, and I did not write this backend in TypeScript, so just made it easier for the first time I ever wrote an API. TypeScript is crazy sometimes. And we are going to pass player, but that has to be in the 5th position. So now for team, we'll say undefined, and for term, we'll say undefined. And then we'll have player in the 5th position there. So let's save this and see if our payload change, well, not our payload, but our response changes at all. So we're restarting, now we're listening again. And we are going to reload this guy. Let's see what we now get in a response from players. It looks like we're getting only honest. That is good. We still don't see him here. So what is in our console is a list of objects, which is why our front end is not connected properly. So we're going to go back into player routes, and our state here is equal. Okay, so we want it to only be equal to one player object. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to set player to player 0. So our response here is the list of objects. We're going to set it to the first one. And that should get us to where we want to be. Let's just log. Let's actually just move this down. Log player there. Make sure everything is good on this side. So there's in our player routes, we're seeing our object. So what is the problem? Our problem is that we still have teams right here. So now that we go to the correct route, let's see if we see a difference. And there is our player component. So now we have a new set of routes that can go to any player's player component. And another addition that I want to make in the future is that when I search like this, so if I search for Leb and then look for, and then go to LeBron James, I want an IntelliSense, like an autocomplete to come up as a drop-down list box here where I can just go right to LeBron James's profile, or else like see his face in a drop-down list box here and I can just go right to his profile. So that's an addition that you guys should look out for in the next retrospective. We're coming up on an hour and a half here. Thanks for everybody that stuck with this video. I hope you enjoyed this demo. Obviously, there is a lot to be done in all of my new player profile routes now. So a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to in the future. Hopefully data gets cleaned up a lot, just like I described, and we will have some really interesting things to talk about in the future. So looking forward to the next time that I could share some of this project with you guys. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave me some feedback if you have any. I would love to collaborate with any of you that are interested in this stuff. Thank you again for the support, guys. Cheers. Enjoy the coming weekend. Bye, guys.